I would say this about censorship. You can look at it as this cult expressing its power. We're so powerful. We'll censor this. We'll delete that. But I see it in another way. When I look at this censorship, I see desperation. I really do. I see absolute desperation. Because the official narrative, not least of this virus pandemic, is so ludicrous, so full of holes, so like the masks, so unsupportable by the evidence, that the only way they are going to protect it and hold it together is by censoring any exposure of it whatsoever. And that includes these doctors, which were not going to the levels of exposure that I'm going to, but even to the level they went to, they have to go as well. Everything that challenges the agenda and the pandemic narrative is being targeted for censorship because the narrative is so ridiculous that only by mass censorship can it survive. And so I don't see this as a power of the cult expression of censorship. I see it as a desperation of the cult because they know how little it would take if it went into mass circulation to take their narratives apart. I've done it in the answer. And we shouldn't get pulled into the idea that we are dealing with an all-powerful force. That's what they want us to believe. We're not. We're dealing with the equivalent of frightened little boys and girls in short trousers who know that they can only survive and they can only continue to advance their agenda, indeed survive any agenda, if they keep the population in ignorance that there is an agenda and that there is a force behind the direction of human society, and B, they keep the target population in a sense of powerlessness and in a sense of little me, what can I do? And they have to hold those two things, because if they don't, the game's over. Like I say, the game's over if enough people just say, no, we're not doing it. No, we're not doing it. It's over. That's how tenuous this cult is in its holding on to power. And it knows it. It knows that its power and its agenda can fall in a ridiculously short time if the perceptions of humanity change and if there's any free flow of information to expose and unravel its ludicrous narratives that we're supposed to believe. So it's not censoring because it's a bit of fun. It's censoring because it's got no choice. And you know, people say, Brian, well, it seems as if they don't really care anymore about, you know, that we know. Well, they do. They'd rather we didn't know. They'd rather we didn't see the blatant censorship that's going on, that's almost laughable in its extreme. They'd rather we didn't see that. But they haven't got a choice. They have to go to those extremes because their official narrative is so ludicrous, a child could take it apart. And so it's had to come on public display. And this is a very dangerous time for this cult. Although it seems to hold the aces, it likes to think it does, it's a very dangerous time because there is the mentality which can be incredibly powerful and world-changing of nothing left to lose. When you think you've got something to lose, you can acquiesce in the hope that you won't lose it. There was a quote from Winston Churchill who talked in terms of basically placating the crocodile in the hope that it would eat you last, or feeding the crocodile in the hope that it would eat you last. And while you feel you've got something to lose, you will acquiesce or are likely to acquiesce in the hope of protecting it. But we're moving, Brian, into a situation very, very fast where vast numbers of the human population will have nothing left to lose. We're on the cusp of a frenzy of home evictions and foreclosures coming up, and people thrown out of their homes. And we are coming to the end of the furlough payments. What the hell are people going to use to put food on the table then? And they're planning food shortages anyway. And when the furlough payments come to an end, those people that have been on furlough, theoretically still employed but being paid by the government, they're going to realize there's no job to go back to. And we're entering this point where vast numbers of people are going to reach that point of nothing left to lose. Now, that is a very dangerous point for the cult, because once you've got nothing left to lose, well, a lot of options are on the table suddenly that weren't before, like actually standing up and saying we're not having it. I've used the analogy before of you've got an army coming at you and you've got a way of escape. So what are most people going to do? They're going to run. Symbolic of acquiescing to the system in the hope that you will hold on to what you think you could lose. But if the army's coming and you're in a canyon and there's only one way out and the army's coming through the one way out, you've got nothing left to lose. So where you would run, you will turn around and say, well, I'm going to give it my best shot because I've got nothing left to lose.